Good evening, America. This is Q News Tonight, the world's first gay live daily evening news show. And it's 7 p.m. Monday, February 24. We begin with breaking Q news that is happening this afternoon. The Me Too movement comes home. Harvey Weinstein has been found guilty in one of the most important sexual abuse and rape trials in American history. He has been found guilty by a jury of his peers, and they have convicted him for, first, a rape charge, second, criminal sex acts, and he can be sentenced now by the judge by up to 25 years. This is breaking Q news on the Me Too movement in entertainment sexual abuse.
Yeah, Harvey Weinstein was one of the first people accused, and he took a lot of the brunt as this movement was getting launched. A lot of other people have already been sentenced, though. We heard, obviously, Bill Cosby was a huge case. I think that was just last year where we saw the result of that. Do you guys think that this will end up stopping some of the movement and some people from coming out? Or do you think that it might cause more people to come out because they see the results of it?
I think this is going to be interesting, especially in an election year, because someone had recently said, a friend, that this is perhaps the end of the Me Too era, the Me Too movement. But I don't know how there can be any closure when we have someone in the White House that jokes about sexually assaulting women and has made a career out of doing it.
And I mean, I think even in the gay community, we often take it lightheartedly too. We were just joking before this that it's the end of the Me Too movement. Yeah, you just go down to an LGBT club and you'll immediately be a part of the Me Too movement because something is going to happen to you. And I think that that's the kind of the double standard that we're talking about. When we're talking about it in the big scale, we understand the importance of it. But it's already gotten to that point where we're making little jokes, and it's only been about a year and a half since this whole thing started.
I think both of your observations are interesting in that I do see similarities between Harvey Weinstein and Donald Trump. Both, in their ways, were at the top of their fields. Of course, President of the United States. But Harvey Weinstein, at one point, was the most important, powerful individual in all of entertainment. And the Weinstein Company was a maker and breaker of careers, whether it was documentary, whether it was arts films, whether it was major motion pictures. It didn't matter if you were Meryl Streep to whatever level you were talking about. Harvey Weinstein was president of Hollywood in terms of his power. Okay. And that's an interesting observation in terms of how it affects America next. This verdict says you're not going to get away with it. And I wonder if there are implications of that in terms of the president.
It's interesting how you compare those two things, too, given that they both were just on trial. And one of them turned out the one way, one of them turned out the other way. What will we see happen from that in terms of the actual actions people take forward?
Well, we've indicated it is 7 p.m. Monday, February 24th, 2020, and it is time to queer up the news. So here we are, out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories next on Q News Tonight. Well, good evening, America, and again, welcome to Q News Tonight. We are live and unscripted, so anything can happen. Tonight, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ plus community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and these are my co-anchors, Aaron Darr and Napoleon Plays. So let's cue up the news. We begin in queuing up Vote 2020 to talk about the #1 political story in the world, and that is Bernie Sanders wins big in Nevada. Before we tell you the story, we've prepared a video package Watch this.
Sanders won with a broad coalition of support. He dominated among Hispanics with 51%. He won more white voters than any other candidate. He was second only to Joe Biden among black voters. He won 49% of voters who described themselves as very liberal. He tied Biden among Democrats who described themselves as moderate or conservative. He ran away with young people, winning 65% of voters under 30. And 57% of voters under 45. He also dominated among those who say they prefer a candidate who agrees with them on the issues.
Well, depending on whose side you're on, this is either wonderful news or scary news. For the Bernie Sanders fans and campaign, this is big news. For everyone else, it's highly questionable. Just 2 months ago, Joe Biden was considered by far the front runner in the Democratic primary, and that has changed. Nevada proved it in the caucus by winning an astounding 47% of Nevada. Biden was a far distant second at 20%, Mayor Pete at 14%, Elizabeth Warren at 10%, and it went down from there. Even more significant was numbers that even 2 months ago would have been considered impossible for Bernie Sanders' campaign in Nevada. It has long been known that the under 30 vote was very significant for Bernie Sanders. It was in Nevada, again, where 65% of all those under the age of 30 voted in the caucus for Bernie Sanders. But in age demographics, a shocking 57% of all voters in Nevada under the age of 45 voted for Bernie Sanders. This is a difficult reflection on the Joe Biden campaign and the other Democratic campaigns that follow. Also interesting, 49% of those that identified as being very liberal voted for Bernie Sanders, and perhaps the most significant number of all was Nevada became the first multicultural primary caucus that has happened so far, especially dominated by the Hispanic community. And Bernie Sanders wins 51% of all Hispanic Latino voters in a field with as many candidates competing in this field. Staggering, and represents an ominous cloud on the horizon in the Democratic Party. So that's the news. What do y'all think about what we watched in Nevada?
Well, honestly, when we're going through all of those statistics, it makes me almost want to see one of those bills like the one in Iowa passed where we do register our sexuality, because I'm really I don't want that, of course, but I'm curious what that would be in terms of our statistics. How much of the LGBTQ population of Nevada, for example, just voted for Bernie or allegedly voted for Bernie? I'd be curious to find that out. It's not something that you can take stats on without that.
Well, and there's a sizable, especially in Reno Metro and definitely Las Vegas, there's a significant LGBT community. Nevada is not like Florida, New York, Illinois, California. So LGBT didn't factor in as significantly as it will in other places, especially as we approach Super Tuesday. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. Nevada is not like Florida. It's not like Ohio. It's not like Pennsylvania. It's not like Indy. And it's not like the Midwest. It's not like states that you need to be able to build a coalition to win in a general election. It's very early on. By the time South Carolina is over, there will only be 150 delegates that will have been applicable for any of the candidates to achieve. This is still anyone's race.
Yeah. We continue in queuing up Vote 2020 to talk about an exclamation point that took place at MSNBC that caught everyone by surprise, including your anchors at Q News Tonight. Chris Matthews, in the evening of the Nevada caucus, compared Sanders' victory in Nevada to a Nazi victory. We have prepared this to show you what he said on MSNBC. Watch this.
It is pretty much over unless that changes. I was reading last night, Brian, I know you're a history guy too. I'm reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940. And the general, Renault, calls up Churchill and says, "It's over." And Churchill said, "How can it be? You got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over?" He said, "It's over." So I had that suppressed feeling. I can't be as wild as Carville, but he is damn smart. And I think he's damn right on this one.
That was Chris Matthews on Hardball, and this is allegedly the second time that he has come out against the Jewish people through the lens of Bernie Sanders. That is said from American Jewish progressive activist group known as If Not Now, all one word. Of course, Bernie Sanders is Jewish, and he has had family that did die in the Holocaust, which is known information. So when Chris Matthews will go out to say something like this, a lot of people are on ears. However, we just saw the clip, and in fact, what you can see in low quality is that we couldn't get this from MSNBC because it was taken down off of their website. So it's something that they are not pushing forward. It's something that they are hiding to some degree. But I didn't personally see anything that was overwhelmingly Jewish. He made a slight remark, of course, related to the Nazis, related to France many years ago. Did you guys think that it was particularly Jew and Semitic?
I think that this is what Bernie Sanders supporters do best. They create and stir fires and drama, and I don't believe that there's really much of a story here. If there's anything really to take seriously out of this, is that, like Dick Cheney, it's concerning to me that people view Chris Matthews as a reliable resource of information.
And you do not.
I do not. No, absolutely not. I never have.
Interesting. I was going to say the exact opposite of that. Chris Matthews is a Tip O'Neill. Read it in Wikipedia. And I'm kidding, of course. But he is pretty reliable from my perspective of an older, more stable perspective of what is going on. And therefore, I don't view this moment in the way many viewed, because Chris Matthews is making a comparison to the over moment in France by Nazi Germany, not that there was any connection.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too. When I was in Israel, I was with a lot of gay people, obviously a lot of Jews, and there were jokes made about the Holocaust on a regular basis. It was a coping mechanism. It wasn't something that you hid from. It wasn't something that you pretended didn't happen. And up to 15,000 gay people did die in the Holocaust. I mean,
well, we're going to continue by queuing up world news. And a very strange thing has happened over the weekend that we report on here at Q News tonight about a frantic crowd cheering as an effigy of a kissing gay couple and their child is burned to a crisp in Croatia. Aaron, tell us about what we are watching here in this story.
So as you're going to see, and our viewers are going to see in the video on screen, this story is taking place out of Imotski, Croatia, and it's an effigy of two men who have a baby. So they are a family unit, and they're being burned in effigy at a carnival festival. It's really concerning because you see people, unfortunately I don't know if our viewers can hear the actual audio, but people are playing music very loudly. They're clapping, they're laughing, and a lot of children are looking kind of in dismay. But what this is doing, unfortunately, is this is normalizing rhetoric that is often sometimes dangerous and hateful towards the LGBTQ community. President Zoran Milanovic, who is the president of Croatia, has come out and said that this is not who Croatia is. We are better than this. But this is stemming out of the fact that there continues to be members of the Democratic Socialist Party that propel this notion that individuals who are LGBT should be able to adopt children, which overwhelmingly the country, according to polls, do not. In 2013, for example, they actually went so far as to vote on a constitutional amendment to ban marriage equality in Croatia, with 66% reporting that very notion.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this. What is it about this visual that can be so striking? Because there's a lot of easy ways to videotape hate in 2020. Yet watching this, I'm getting an emotional reaction to this. I feel a lot of different things in regard to the people that are sitting there apathetically watching, or that are being taught in a lot of the cases how they should be treating other members of society. Do you guys feel...
It's the most distressing in watching this. First off, it's a violation of European Union rules, Croatia being a member. In the Union, you can't have this kind of public demonstration. It is a violation of EU rules. The most distressing portion of this video is how many children are around.
It's all children.
And the children clearly don't even understand what they're watching, but it is a subversive way to get them to begin to think about the way they're going to think about the LGBT community in Croatia, and that's very sad. We continue to queue up the world and report about coronavirus and coronavirus cases that are spiking, causing fear of a pandemic in the world. We've prepared a bit on this. Watch this.
Italy has the 5th most cases in the world. The sudden spike leading Italy's prime minister to take what he calls dramatic measures. Trains now being inspected at the border with Austria, schools closed in the state of Lombardy, the famed Milan Cathedral now shuttered to tourists, the Venice Carnival cut short, and a stark image for the end of Milan's Fashion Week. Here, Giorgio Armani holding his runway show in an empty theater, models on a darkened catwalk while those in attendance stream the show from a safe distance.
We bring you more information from the coronavirus global pandemic as we continue to report numbers. In China, there are 409 new cases and that 26,000 dead out of 77,000 that are reported with it. We were just seeing information about Italy, where there are 152 people that are reported with it. Just 10 days ago on Valentine's Day, there were only 3 people that were reported with it. In Iran, there are 50 dead. There have been a lot of false reports also since February about 13th. We're seeing that the containment efforts are not working and that events, travel, businesses, even entire factories are starting to shut down in China, in Italy, around the world. We're seeing some really big effects of the coronavirus.
I think the number one issue in fear of pandemic is who do we trust? Unless the world
for information,
Health, right? Well, and period. In trust, period. If the World Health Organization is not completely in charge on site, how do you trust a municipality government or a state government or a national government, because they know?
Are you referring to China when you're saying this?
China, but other places too. What we're going to watch happen in Italy is going to say tourism is our number one industry, and if the world is saying that coronavirus is centric in Italy, it is going to dramatically affect their economy. So they're incentivized to be untruthful.
To be clear, from the World Health Organization, the chief Tedros Adhanom stated that they are worried about the situation in the Islamic Republic of Iran and in Italy. So they have gone on record now to say that, at bare minimum, at the very least. And just for more information, a Harvard epidemiologist went on to say that within a year, he believes that 40 to 70% of all people, the entire world population, will have this virus. And that while the numbers don't necessarily reflect the death, and that a lot of people will be not affected the same way that we're seeing in some of these numbers, that is a substantial number of people to be impacted in the next year, that it won't be contained.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, being here in America and someone who doesn't travel abroad much, I think about coronavirus every day. And I have to say this because I'm HIV positive. So I have an immune deficiency disease. So people who have contracted coronavirus abroad, the people that actually are passing away from this disease are people that have compromised immune systems. So it's something that's on my mind, and I hope that as we get more information in real time, that people take the steps necessary to protect themselves.
That provides a dramatic connection to the LGBT community. We've talked about travel, but also because of our unique HIV needs in our community, coronavirus is a flashing red light.
That's right, and that's just this story, but we do talk about this with everything that we cover, and we want to know here at Q News Tonight, are LGBTQ voices important to you? Can the news of the world have a gay community perspective? If you, like us, think the answer is a resounding yes, then like and subscribe to Q News Tonight on YouTube and Facebook. Do our gay cultural stories impact you, your friends, and your family? Start a watch party. Get your circle involved in our conversation as it supports the entirety of the gay community.
We are going to continue our news tonight at Q News Tonight by queuing up the USA. And we want to report an interesting story that happened over the weekend where the quote is, "I want to be brave like you." As a 9-year-old asked Pete Buttigieg for his help coming out as gay. We've prepared this video. Watch this.
The next question comes from Zachary, age 9.
Oh, wow.
And this is a really touching question. He says, "Thank you for being so brave. Would you help me tell the world I'm gay too? I want to be brave like you."
Wow.
Children are listening. Children in Croatia are listening, and children in America are listening. Mayor Pete actually went on to bring that 9-year-old child on stage at this campaign rally that took place in Denver, Colorado, and he said to him that, "I can't promise you it's always going to be easy, but I can promise you that I'm always going to be rooting for you." And you know, watching this, I thought to myself, wow, when I was 9 years old, I would have loved to have had somebody like Pete
running for president.
Because it would have made things so much easier for a little gay kid like me in a very conservative part of Ohio, that, you know, for all the times you're being called a faggot or a queer or what have you, or being demasculized by the people that you would go on to graduate, that you spend 13 years of your life with, having somebody like Pete it just would have made it so much better for me.
It seems to me that that soundbite of how it would wash over 9-year-old Aaron Dar is exactly win or lose, whatever happens with Pete Buttigieg in this election, he's already won, because this is the moment that 9-year-old gives him the victory of what he has done in 2020. The sheer fact that the 9-year-old can process, this is somebody that I want to talk to help me. Wouldn't that have been his father? Wouldn't it have been his uncle? Wouldn't it have been his brother? No, it's a candidate for president of the United States who happens to be gay. An amazing story. We continue to queue up the USA to talk about Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor as she issues a scathing dissent on the legal immigration decision that has just come out. Napoleon, tell us about this story.
Yes, Justice Sotomayor has released a letter that essentially condemns what's going on in the Supreme Court with both her judges, her fellow judges, as well as the entirety of government, Donald Trump specifically. She stated that there's a lot of different cases, that it's been a monumental time for the Supreme Court between immigration, abortion, LGBTQ rights, the Second Amendment, President Donald Trump. There's a lot of big cases that are being decided now. And she's saying that the president is misusing the Supreme Court by overusing them, and that the courts are allowing him to do that. Now, Trump has defended that the lower courts have too many cases that have broad results, and therefore he has to use the Supreme Court. But we're seeing him turn to them more and more. And what that means is that we're seeing him, one, have executive orders that are in fact legislation, and that he's working with different bureaucracies to have different types of regulations so that he can work in the judicial aspect. And he's also working very, very closely with the Supreme Court, which is the judicial branch. So he has the legislative and the judicial almost under the palm of his hand, and of course he is the executive. So basically we're seeing Trump have a complete monopoly on the entire government process.
We are watching a moment in dissent where Justice Sotomayor is basically saying the White House is abusing the Supreme Court in terms of emergency stay requests, but equally the Supreme Court is in chaos in terms of not stopping the White House in continuing in these emergency requests. And for me, this news story is very important because it probably is the sentinel topic in America, and most of the LGBT community doesn't understand it. We stopped at marriage and said, okay, basically decision made. But the Supreme Court makes basically every major decision that affects every single American. And what we learn in her dissent is that the Supreme Court matters, and that means elections matter, because who you vote for president is who gets onto the Supreme Court.
And let's take it to what you just said for that moment, because like you said, they are looking to potentially overturn old cases. We have Roe versus Wade. We have other cases that are being reevaluated. The abortion is just one example. Just because we have marriage right now doesn't mean that it's here to stay.
We continue to queue up the news and move to entertainment. And we talk about Disney's Pixar. Their new animated film, Onward, is going to unveil the first gay Disney animated character ever in history at Pixar and Disney. Aaron, tell us about what's happening here.
So yes, Lena Waithe, who is a member of the LGBTQ community, she is an actress. She's going to be playing a character that is openly LGBT in the new Pixar film Onward. The character's name is Slate. Very brief moment in the movie, but it is a very cute movie about the importance of family and being able to have a second opportunity to reconnect with a loved one after they've passed. And this movie, it's cute. It's going to be coming out in theaters on March 6th.
Do we care? And Napoleon, I have to turn to you in terms of your pop culture knowledge. Do we care about this at all?
Well, we care for a lot of reasons, but the first is that this is something that Disney is billing because they have technically had openly gay characters before, or at least characters that are very clearly gay. In Frozen, they had one that even was doing nails in the second, a manicure specifically in the sequel. They've had characters like LeFou in Beauty and the Beast that are clearly gay and meant to be gay, that have crushes on Gaston.
I totally played LeFou in Beauty and the Beast for a reason.
That was
like, oh my God, she just connected it.
Your mother has just learned that that's the reason.
Yeah,
you played
right.
that character.
I know she's laughing right now.
But it is important to have representation, like we just saw with the effigy. Obviously, how you grow up, what you're just taking in without even realizing it as a child is important. But what was most notable here is that apparently she does mention her girlfriend, but it's only a quick passing moment. So it's not even a real character, it's a fleeting character
Because
in
it
the movie.
shouldn't be remarkable. It should be unremarkable because us as LGBT people, the fact that we can have families, the fact that we can do the same and have the same kind of life anyone else does in heteronormative aspects of society, that's not remarkable. It's normal. And that's what's so great about being included as an LGBT person, as a voice in these kind of films, because children are listening. Whether it be a child in Croatia, a child that's seeing a gay man crack a glass ceiling for other LGBT people to run for president or any and all offices in this country, or little kids that are going to be sitting with their family units in theaters all across the country on March 6th. They're going to be seeing this, and they're going to be seeing that they feel included too.
Well, I was going to push us on to talk about our participation in Happening Out.
Well, yes, no, of course. So in doing this is why Q News Tonight is so important, because Q News Tonight is part of the LGBT community, and it's part of that Happening Out television network. We are the Daily News. But you can also watch the best of entertainment live every Monday night at 8 p.m. on happening.fun, which it's Monday, so 8 p.m. Stay tuned. We're also part of the most popular live gay TV show in the world every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on It's Happening Out. It's like a television show that a lot of us might know called The View, but with a whole lot of gay people.
Absolutely. And I always, wait, the joke's too easy. A whole lot of gay.
Kind of like you.
Tonight we're broadcasting Q News Tonight from our new set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center here in Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We joke we're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth, and we thank you for your support of Q News Tonight. We began this project on January 5th of this year. We're just into the 7th week, and we're very happy to report that last week in our principal platform, which is YouTube television, we were one of the top live viewed LGBT programs in the United States. We were #1 in Florida with more than 100,000 views just last week. We were 100 times greater than #2. So we thank you very much of your support of Q News Tonight. We also thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living in Fort Lauderdale, and for this new set that we're doing here. All right, we're going to finish the show tonight with the big finish. There are many stories today we only want to mention. Let's see if Aaron and Napoleon and I can entertain each other as we have a lightning round on the LGBT news of the day and the news with an LGBT perspective. If they talk too much or not entertaining, I'm going to ring this bell and we are going to move on for the big finish. Gentlemen, do you understand what we're doing?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Q News Tonight, the big finish. The big finish. Burger King unveils a new moldy Whopper ad campaign.
As soon as Trump takes office, we start bragging about moldy food. The way to go, America.
You say Burger King, I say Burger Queen.
And I love that Burger King can actually have a burger that ages and has mold, because I understand some other fast food products, they don't do as well. I don't eat fast food at all. This is why. The big finish. Chuck Schumer, exciting. The New York senator admits spending over $8,600 on, drumroll please, cheesecake.
Sounds like he's trying to compete with the Golden Girls. Aaron, I'm sure you're already there.
Yes, but you know what they say about money. Money's like manure. It doesn't do anyone or anything any good unless it's spread around being used for cheesecake.
Hello, Dolly.
Hello,
right?
Dolly.
There are so many New York jokes running through my head, I don't even know where to begin. That's a hell of a lot of cheesecake. The big finish. Bloomberg hasn't apologized for anti-trans past, but is selling a Protect Trans Rights t-shirt.
People are allowed to evolve. People are allowed to have passive opinions, and as long as they're with us on these issues now, that's all that matters.
I don't know why the gay community is so in uproar. Clearly, he's taking after RuPaul and branding every opportunity that he has available to him.
And I think the whole story that happens today is stupid because the person that evolved the most from a different perspective, he's called Barack Obama, and we're all happy he did. The big finish. I have never, from our file, I have never seen him eat a vegetable. Trump prepares for no beef on his India trip.
That's because he's all man and he only wants raw meat.
Wow, I didn't know you were going to go there. You know, I didn't know that I had this in common with Donald Trump. We are both big connoisseurs of beef.
I couldn't help but wonder when I saw this, I finally realized, oh, that's where Donald Trump came from. In the 1970s, the little old lady, where's the beef?
Oh, where's the beef? Oh,
That's
she's
Donald.
from my hometown, Massillon, Ohio.
The big finish. The Dow is plunging America amid coronavirus fears.
Yes, well, he heard the Obamas, he heard Michelle say, when you go low, we go high, and he decided that everything was going to go low in his presidency just to spite her.
Very concerning how this is going to not only affect us in terms of our health, but the economy as well globally.
I don't understand how the guy gets bumps for his economy booming, but I don't hear all of the knocks when we've crashed 1,500 points in recent days. I don't understand it. There just seems to be hypocrisy in America, and it's sitting right here at this table. The big finish. Happy 43rd birthday. Wait. We keep doing this in these birthday celebrations again tonight. Happy 43rd birthday to fighter, boxer, world champion Floyd Mayweather Jr.
This happy birthday to him. So for some of our viewers who perhaps don't know, Floyd Mayweather is a former professional boxer who has a very homophobic history in calling many of his opponents faggot. So I guess as I would say to Floyd, happy 43rd birthday, faggot.
Yeah, I would say I'd rather be punched in the face several times than talk about him, but clearly people at this table know I'd like that, so let's just keep on from talking about him instead.
Say, I'm not even thinking about Floyd Mayweather anymore because I want to punch you in the face. The big finish. On this day in 1903, the U.S. leased Guantanamo Bay from Cuba.
1903, the year of Al's birth.
Oh, it's funny because when we started talking about Cuba and this specific headline, the first thing that Al says here in Cuba, he says, "How long is it?" Actual story.
Oh my God.
Moments ago.
To my friends.
It hits home because it's true.
To my friends, I'm trying to recover America. That was both
He's
of those
blushing.
reads were pretty
Blush and
brutal.
bashful.
To my Bernie friends, America, and I do have a lot of them, you would be very happy of the socialist partnership with Cuba in Guantanamo Bay. In 2020, we are paying on the lease to Cuba a whopping total for the entire Guantanamo Bay lease this year, $4,084.
They're just giving it away.
Buy of the century.
Sounds like socialism.
Exactly.
Sounds like this table.
Yes, it does. Well, that's it. This is today's news for the LGBT community on the world's first daily gay evening news show. Remember, if it's important to the LGBT community, it's important to Q News Tonight. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. And this is Q News Tonight. Thank you. And guess what? We're going to see you tomorrow at 7. Good night.